Alrighty, can everybody hear me?
Yep, can hear you.
Great.
Yes.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So Doug, you're gonna drive, right?
Yep, I'll be good to go. Wow, this is interesting. 25 last minute signups here.
We are competing with Penant. They also have a webinar too on their brand new ship.
Yeah, were you in the one last week?
No,
I mean, it was very interesting. I mean, they had a couple of their cruise directors, some of the captains on there. It was interesting.
Doug, I went door to door. That's why you have 25 more signups while I was doing emails.
Here we go.
So
Maybe
it
it's a-
says we're in a practice session. Does that mean we're not actually in the webinar?
That's correct.
Okay.
Is correct.
Alrighty, folks, everybody ready?
Mhm.
Yep.
Alrighty, so Nikki and Cheryl, make sure to remain muted throughout the session.
Okay.
Be good to go.
What?
Isn't mute yourself? So everybody see my screen here?
Mhm.
Yes.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much here for joining us for this edition in our webinar series of A New Era with Cruising with Vantage Deluxe World Travel. My name is Douglas Morgan. I'm one of the sales and service managers here in our inbound contact center. Joining me here today is Nikki Atea and Cheryl Sheehan. They will both be our panelists to answer any questions that come up here in today's webinar. And for our exclusive presenter, we are so happy and glad here to have Deirdre Dirkman, our Vice President of Worldwide Operations here. Just got back from one of our inaugural sailings for Beauty of the British Isles. We're tremendously happy and very thankful for Deirdre to spend some time here with us, as we are all of you who have taken the time out of this afternoon to join us today. Without further ado, I present to you Deirdre Dirkman.
Thank you, Doug, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar today. As Doug mentioned, I've just returned from a few weeks on board the Ocean Explorer, and also welcoming her here into Boston. She's currently here in Boston, bound for the Bahamas this evening, but has been here since Saturday morning. So we were thrilled to share the excitement with the rest of our colleagues and some guests from around the Boston area over the weekend to visit. So I know there are a lot of new guests to Vantage here today. So I will go over just a few items with you, tell a little bit about ourselves as we approach this new era, as Doug said, of cruising here with Vantage. I myself have been here at Vantage just over 13 years. And within the last month, I visited my 75th country. I added Malta to my list of countries where I traveled. This is where we picked up the Ocean Explorer at the beginning of August. And I have 4 more countries to travel to before the end of the year this year. So hopefully I'll be approaching 80 countries by early next year. So Vantage, in the past, we have been more known for our river cruising. But I'm going to tell you a little bit more about us today. Go over our spotlight, which is our small ship ocean cruising, which is what the majority of you are here today to hear about and see what's new and exciting with us. What's new for trips for 2023. Many of you submitted some questions prior asking what can be expected cruising in a post-COVID world. And then we have some exciting prizes and incentives just to update you with at the end of the webinar as well. So don't be sure not to log off too early so that you can hear all about the prizes that we have today. So back in 1983, Vantage was founded by our owner, Mr. Henry Lewis, here in Boston. And we focused initially on small group tour experiences, targeting the mature travelers, the travelers who are possibly retired or part-time working, who have the flexibility to go on multiple trips and longer excursions throughout the world. Later on, later on, after 1983, we started to embark into small ship adventures and land trips for our guests. We had 5 river boats at the peak of our river planning. Currently, we have our new vessel operating in Egypt, as well as our ocean vessel. So we're still operating river cruising around the world. We are operating on all continents, and we have 5 other offices outside of the US. So we have our European headquarters in Budapest, Hungary. We have an office in Beijing, China, Zagreb, Croatia, Buenos Aires, Argentina, and Cape Town, South Africa. So all of our team around the world, this is where their offices are and where they located in the regions where they can better service all of our guests and be on call for all of our guests and our tours that travel through those regions. So over the years, Vantage has won many awards, been honored for various items. Originally, the Vantage fleet was the only fleet of vessels, both river and ocean, that had single cabins on all of our vessels. So this really means that we would have every single trip that we operate, we have eliminated single supplements for at least those cabins. This applies for our ocean vessels, our European river cruises, and our Nile journeys, as well as all of our land products. There's a select number of free single supplements on every single land adventure departure year-round. It's not an unlimited number, but we do have a large number of free single supplements available, which if you're used to traveling with another person, sharing the same cabin or sharing a hotel room, you know, most things are priced as double occupancy, and a lot of hotels and other establishments charge a surcharge, which sometimes is 200%, sometimes it's 150% for a single person to have the pleasure of occupying a double cabin. So we've eliminated that. With that being said, we've won numerous awards for such things in our trips: the Solo Travel Awards, Condé Nast Traveler Awards, and Travel and Leisure World's Best Awards over the past few years. So moving along, the focus of today's webinar is, of course, the new era of cruising with Vantage. As we have just accepted within the last month, delivery of our first in our fleet of ocean vessels, the Ocean Explorer. We took delivery in Poole in the United Kingdom, and the first trip sailed from Poole, England, up to Wales, to Northern Ireland, onto Scotland. It then traveled up to the Faroe Islands, which in Denmark, Iceland, and then across the Atlantic to Boston, here to our home port. With our itineraries, we have curated the itineraries to hit every single continent around the world between our Ocean Explorer and our Ocean Odyssey, the sister ships. The first ship in the fleet, the Ocean Explorer, as we know, started in Asia. It traveled across the Indian Ocean, up through the Suez Canal, across the Mediterranean, the Bay of Biscay, the Irish Sea, the North Sea, across the Atlantic. And as I mentioned at the start of this webinar, she will be heading south towards Nassau and the Bahamas later on this evening, and do some tours up and down the East Coast before then heading south for our winter up here in the Northern Hemisphere. She'll be heading south to Antarctica for the season, which runs generally from mid-December until late February. With our 5-star small ships, the sister ships, we've been able to put together a global deployment. As I mentioned, it traverses every single continent. We just launched the Explorer within the last few weeks, took delivery, and in March of 2022, we will take delivery of her sister ship, the Ocean Odyssey, and that will take place in Singapore at the end of March. These are custom designed vessels. We designed them with our clientele, our guests in mind, and partnered with various Scandinavian designers on both the patented X-bow on the front of the vessel, as well as the interior decorations, Finnish design companies. A lot of Scandinavian equipment was used in the construction of the vessel. So we are very, very excited. Why would somebody cruise on a small ocean ship? Well, for starters, our ocean vessels have a maximum of 77 cabins. That's a very small number. The maximum capacity for guests of 139, which is almost a 1-to-2 ratio between guests and crew. We have 15 solo cabins. As I mentioned, we have won numerous awards for our solo cabins and our availability of solo cabins on all of our vessels. As we move forward into this new era, we also have adjoining cabins, which enables families to share in cabins. When we have a small ocean ship, as opposed to a larger vessel, it affords us to go into these smaller ports. I'll talk a little bit more about some of those throughout our webinar today. It's a far more intimate experience. We afford people to get up closer to nature, either be it sailing into smaller ports or with Zodiac excursions, Zodiac sea ferries, all kinds of opportunities to be a little bit closer to nature, not just on expedition trips, but on other trips throughout the deployment. And we also have a very high passenger space ratio. So a lot of common space that will allow people to be very, very comfortable and feel completely at ease as they sail the high seas on board the ocean vessel. We also have a multitude of suite options on board the vessel. With all of our suites, we do include business class on the flights with those suite reservations. We have private airport transfers to and from the airports upon arrival. We welcome you into your suite with a welcome bottle of champagne. Your minibar is stocked upon arrival in the cabin. In the owner's suite, your minibar is actually restocked every single day. With the spa on board, you are able to do priority reservations for the spa. And of course, because lots of people stay for very long cruises on board, we do include complimentary laundry for the duration of your stay when you are occupying some of the suites on board the vessels. And here we're looking at a photo of our owner suite, which there's one owner suite on the vessel, and this is the living room in the owner suite. You can see that all of our suites and 87% of our cabins actually do have verandas on board. And with the exception of one single cabin category on deck on deck 3, every single other cabin has verandas. All outside cabins, we don't have any inside restricted view cabins. Everything looks fully out onto the ocean. I mentioned 80% of the cabins with private verandas. We have 11 categories of cabins to choose from, including 2 solo cabin types, both one type with a veranda and the other for the more budget conscious, which would have a portal window. The guest cabins are spread over 4 passenger decks. They are spread over deck 3, 4, 6, and 7. We have 6 categories of suites for a total of 10 suites. I mentioned the triple occupancy and adjoining cabins or family cabins. And we also have solo friendly options available in some other categories. Once our 15 solo cabins sell out, we do always have other opportunities for solos to travel at a discounted option. So again, some photos of some other cabin categories we have on board. Additionally, we have multiple dining options throughout the vessel. Top to bottom here on the left, we are looking at our main dining area. You can see there are a multitude of seating options. We have then our outdoor hot rock dining area in the middle, which is available for seating indoors or take the food outside depending on the weather. We also host barbecues outside, weather permitting, of course. And then also we have a specialty dining area here in the bottom for those of you who maybe travel as a large group, a family celebrating an event, or just simply a group who've met on board and you'd like to have a small family gathering or a private gathering. This area can be reserved for smaller groups. And as I mentioned, all of the dining areas offer multiple seating options. So anything from 2-person tables to 4 to 6 to 8 banquettes. Nobody will be disappointed. So lots of dining opportunities. One other reason to travel with Vantage on our small ship cruises, we offer a multitude of types of cruising. We have cultural discovery cruises. We have regular ocean cruising. We have expedition cruises. Cultural discovery cruises, very light paced, no heavy activity, a lot of lectures, a lot of port talks, a lot of educational things on board, cookery demonstrations, just relaxing all around. We have a lot of ocean cruising, which may or may not include some days at sea, enjoying the peace and the serenity of just sailing in the ocean. And then following that, we also have our expedition for the more adventurous traveler. Expedition cruising would also involve a lot of Zodiac cruising. So hopping in and out of Zodiacs, the rubber dinghies to transport you to shore or to sea further into the smaller fjords of Antarctica or smaller, narrower ports that we may sometimes dock outside of. Right now you're looking at a photo of our sun deck with our pools and our hot tubs. And why not enjoy the sunset from our infinity pool aboard the Ocean Explorer? Very exciting to see this in action last week. So moving along to some of our more popular itineraries. I know some of you submitted some questions prior to the webinar, maybe where you might like to go next year, either in 2022, or you're simply just looking for ideas for 2023, which subsequently both options are available at this point in time. Moving to our first trip, which we did have a lot of interest in our Majestic North itinerary, which encompasses Greenland and Iceland. This itinerary includes 18 days or 17 nights. It is an expedition itinerary, which has a maximum then of 124 passengers. We include a massive number of 23 included features. And we also operate this itinerary in both directions. So you can sail either from Reykjavik, Iceland, over to Nuuk in Greenland, or vice versa, and then fly back to Reykjavik, or fly from Reykjavik to Greenland and then cruise back. This itinerary is very popular, and it does, of course, travel inside the Arctic Circle, which is rather exciting. Another popular itinerary we have is our itinerary that sails from the Holy Land, or encompasses the Holy Land, Israel, the Greek islands, Cyprus, Turkey, Egypt, and also traverses the Suez Canal en route from Egypt through to the Mediterranean. This itinerary is a cultural discovery itinerary, which we would include our cruise director, our concierge, or program manager, has a maximum of 139 guests, 16 nights or 17 days, and a whopping 27 included features. This itinerary basically covers the entire Eastern Mediterranean and visits a lot of the smaller islands within Greece, as well as some places that not a lot of cruises go to, Cyprus, all the way in the Eastern Mediterranean. So this is another beautiful itinerary that operates and sails during on either side of the summer. So in the earlier part, May into June, and then also September into October. So it's not too hot, which is a pretty nice time to be traveling and sailing in the Eastern Mediterranean. Something else that if you do not like maybe warmer weather, perhaps the Baltics, the jewels of Scandinavia, the Baltic capitals, and St. Petersburg, Russia would be for you. This again is a cultural discovery itinerary that encompasses 6 different countries on the base itinerary with a optional extension thereafter. We also have 139 travelers. It's a 14-night cruise, 15 days, with 23 included features throughout the duration of this journey. Hit every single country in the Baltics there in one fell swoop. A very, very popular itinerary that is unfortunately already sold out for 2022. But if this is a region that you are interested in traveling to, be sure to sign up for one of the available cabins in 2023. One of our next most popular itineraries is actually going to be our inaugural sailing in 2022, but this itinerary will also travel and sail in 2023. This itinerary goes from Singapore up through Malaysia, Sri Lanka, and finishes in India, in Mumbai. Passengers can visit the homestead of Gandhi in Porbandar. This is also a cultural discovery itinerary, visiting 5 countries, a total of 139 travelers on this itinerary, 23 included features. And you also have the opportunity then to visit either Siem Reap in Cambodia as a pre-extension, or Delhi and Agra and the fabulous Taj Mahal as the post-extension. A very beautiful itinerary that I had the pleasure of putting together with my team from China for this itinerary. A wonderful, wonderful experience. And the itinerary that I just returned from, that was our inaugural sailing here in 2021, was our Beauty of the British Isles itinerary. Another cultural discovery itinerary, 139 travelers, travels England, Wales, Northern Ireland, Scotland, including the Orkney Islands and the Outer Hebrides. Along this itinerary, passengers or guests will have the opportunity to do a pre-extension to Dublin in the Republic of Ireland, my hometown. This was a beautiful itinerary that we did unfortunately have some deviations this year due to COVID restrictions, but hopefully in 2022 we will be able to get back on our regular schedule. An itinerary that takes in a lot of beautiful, beautiful little ports up in Scotland, Western Scotland. We have some beautiful experiences, and as I mentioned, up close and personal with a lot of wildlife, seals, dolphins, all kinds of wildlife along the way. That was a just beautiful experience. Moving along the itinerary that we have currently, that passengers or guests on board the Ocean Explorer right now are sailing from Boston to Provincetown, Massachusetts, down to Martha's Vineyard, Newport, New York City, Williamsburg, Norfolk, all the way down and ending up in Nassau in the Bahamas. This itinerary encompasses Colonial America and cultural capitals from Boston to Nassau. This is a cultural discovery itinerary with our tour director, cruise directors, 17 days or 16 nights in total, 20 included features, and an additional 6 cultural discoveries throughout this itinerary. I'm quite disappointed. I unfortunately will not be joining this itinerary this week, but perhaps on one of its later voyages, I will join this cruise, because I would love to visit some places in the south, and Wilmington and Charleston next on my list, I think. Moving to one of our light expedition itineraries. This itinerary, which encompasses Reykjavik to Oslo, Reykjavik, Iceland to Oslo in Norway. We have 4 included hotel nights, 2 in Reykjavik and 2 in Copenhagen at the end of this itinerary. We visit 5 countries in Scandinavia and Iceland, as well as Scotland. We visit the less traveled Faroe Islands, the Shetland Islands, the Westman Islands off the coast of Iceland. Because this is a light expedition itinerary, it has a maximum of 139 travelers. And in 2022, we have the opportunity to also extend this trip for guests who would also like to take in the normally once every 10 years Oberammergau Passion Play in Germany. For those who do not know, Oberammergau is a small village in Germany that hosts and performs the Passion Play there every 10 years. Normally it's in the 10th year, so it should have happened in 2020. Unfortunately, due to COVID, they pushed it back to 2022. But if this is something that's on your bucket list, perhaps 2022 is the year to go. And also cruise between Reykjavik and Oslo while you're in Europe. So this is an exciting itinerary, and the entire itinerary is just 15 nights altogether. So the perfect getaway prior to a few days in Oberammergau. So many of you have asked where would be new for us to travel to in 2023? What sort of destinations are we looking at and focused on in 2023 that perhaps you have not considered traveling to, or maybe you've traveled there by train or overland and are just looking for something different to do in 2023? I have some fabulous options for you today. One of the new itineraries you put together based on our guests' feedback is our Icons of the Mediterranean, Italy, Sicily, and Croatia. This itinerary either starts or finishes in Trieste in northern Italy. Passengers then, or guests then, go to Croatia, heading down to the bottom, to the very south of Italy, to Brindisi, across to Sicily. We even go to Malta, porting in Valletta, Malta, a beautiful, beautiful area, all the way back up to Italy, and stopping then, finishing the itinerary just outside of Rome in Civitavecchia, with optional extensions then to Florence. See a lot of nice artwork, or Stresa and the Italian lakes. This is a beautiful itinerary that encompasses 3 different countries along the way. Very, very popular for 2023 already. Another exciting itinerary based on popular demand. We put together Europe's southern coast, Italy, France, Monaco, and Spain. Again, a cultural discovery, maxing with 139 guests per voyage. Italy, Sardinia, the island of Sardinia, the island of Corsica, Monte Carlo, the French Riviera, and finishing in Barcelona. Guests do have the opportunity to go to Sorrento and Madrid as extensions in either direction. Again, some beautiful islands that perhaps you have not considered traveling to in the past, visiting the islands of Corsica and Sardinia. A beautiful itinerary I look forward to traveling on in 2023. And both of these itineraries are already open for sale and accepting bookings right now. Another itinerary we have coming up in 2023 is our Northern European voyage, which sails from Reykjavik to Dublin, or vice versa. There are only 2 departures, so this will be very, very popular. Again, limited to 139 guests, encompassing Iceland, Denmark, Scotland, Northern Ireland. You'll dock in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and Dublin in the Republic of Ireland. Optional extensions to further explore Reykjavik, staying longer in Reykjavik, or Castle in Kings Court, County Cavan in Ireland. We are currently taking pending reservations for this tour, and we expect it to be open for sale in the coming weeks. And finally, our most popular itinerary then, we hope, in 2023 is going to be our Castles and Cliffs, a circumnavigation of Ireland and beyond. We will have only 1 departure of this itinerary in 2023. This itinerary will, as its name suggests, circumnavigate the island of Ireland. Guests will have the opportunity to go to Wales, and also they will have the opportunity to extend their stay and visit Edinburgh, Scotland, and or Castle in Kings Court, Ireland as well. Again, taking pending reservations for this itinerary as well for 2023. This is an itinerary that I'm very excited about. I mentioned I'm from Dublin originally, and I look forward to welcoming all of our guests to my hometown of Dublin when we travel on this itinerary. One of our departures in 2023 will be our exclusive President's Club departure of Castles and Cliffs circumnavigating Ireland and beyond. Open to just 135 guests. This is an exclusive itinerary that will operate very similarly to the circumnavigation of Ireland and beyond, but we will have some extra features and gala dinners throughout this itinerary, staying in a multitude of castles and gala dinners, visits to the Skellig Islands in County Kerry. We'll be driving the Wild Atlantic Way, a beautiful, beautiful itinerary. Now is the time to reserve your spot on this itinerary and join the President on this itinerary later in 2023. This itinerary does travel over Memorial Day of 2023. Okay. So those itineraries maybe piqued your interest, got excited about traveling, but still have some nagging voices in your head about traveling post-COVID, or what can I expect now traveling in what is possibly the new normal. Traveling has not been the glorious thing it was back in the 70s. It's been a challenge for many years. However, traveling in a post-COVID world isn't any less challenging. It's been a little bit difficult, but we have taken all kinds of precautions, which I'll review and go over and possibly answer any questions you guys may have on how safe will you feel, what is the experience like, and how will things be different prior to departure. So before you depart, Vantage will ask you to fill out a questionnaire, which will only take a few minutes, and will verify your wellness prior to departure. A similar type of questionnaire that you may get going to a doctor's office or any other offices. Do you have a fever? Have you had a cold in the last 4 days? Et cetera, et cetera. All of our passengers and crew are vaccinated, and they must be vaccinated fully vaccinated at least 14 days prior to departure. So that is a requirement at this time to take any of our Vantage trips for both your safety and our staff and crew's safety and well-being along the tours. While you are en route to your destinations, we have partnered with all of our major airline carriers to ensure their health and safety protocols are being followed. Included with Vantage flight reservations are transfers from the airports to your hotel or ship on tour. So you're going to be experiencing smaller groups on those travel transfers, and sanitization protocols are being taken on all of our transfers. You'll see a lot more cleaning, even though there'll be less people per transfer, but a lot more cleaning and wiping down and disinfecting of buses, coaches, transfer vehicles between the airports and the hotels. Prior to embarkation or during embarkation onto any of our vessels, for your comfort and safety, we have staggered our embarkations onto the vessels. So we are testing guests with a rapid test before they embark on the vessels to make sure that nobody is potentially infecting anybody else or feeling ill or anything like that. But the staggering of embarkations eliminates the check-in crowding at the check-in section, and hopefully avoid some uncomfortably long waiting periods. Prior to embarkation, the crew member will again ask you some wellness questions. And if you require further testing, we are always going to be close to medical facilities, be it a doctor's office, an urgent care, a hospital. Upon arrival at the vessels, we check your temperature with a non-touch thermometer. And as I mentioned, we do a quick PCR test as well. After that, we sanitize all of your luggage before delivery to your cabins. So ensuring safety and wellness across the board prior to embarkation. Then once you are on board, a lot of protocols that we are taking, changing quite frequently, unfortunately, as situations arise. But at this time, we do require all of our guests and crew to wear a face covering when they are moving throughout the vessel, moving throughout the common spaces on the vessel. Common spaces including dining areas, lounges, shops, etc., indoors on the vessel. However, when you're obviously sitting down, eating or drinking, that's not required. There are plenty of hand sanitizer available throughout the ship. We encourage and request the frequent use of that hand sanitization process. You will notice a lot more frequent cleaning by our crews throughout the journeys. On our ocean vessels, we have a doctor on board year-round. We have reduced the capacity on some of our vessels, and you'll notice that we also have some social distancing requirements at the bars or at the dining areas. So perhaps a table that would normally seat 6, you may see that we have blocked 2 of the seats from guests sitting there, so it might become a table of 4. Or you're sitting on a bar in the lounge, and every second seat would be left vacant for social distancing. Items that are usually shared, communal bread bowls or butter or things like that, will now be served individually to each guest. And this is to avoid additional worries with health and cleanliness and sanitation throughout your journey, to prevent the spread or infection of any guests on our vessels. The crew, as I mentioned, prior to embarkation, they will all be vaccinated. They will undergo daily wellness checks and health screenings throughout the sailings, quarantining immediately if symptoms arise until they can be disembarked. The crew meals also will no longer be self-service, and they will all be served directly. So prior to COVID, they would have kind of a buffet service. They're no longer even able to go have buffet services on their crew mess on board the vessels. Shore excursions. While Vantage will do our best, we will also be required to follow all local and state guidelines for social distancing, wearing of facial coverings, etc. You will notice that depending on, even here in the US, the state requirements are different by state, but we will also be required to follow all of those local and state guidelines depending where we are. Our coaches and buses, again, will be sanitized prior to departure. Seating will be social distanced as per the local laws. And again, upon returning to the vessel after a day excursion, your temperature would be checked again as a precaution. So this is really important. We're constantly checking temperatures in the event of an elevated temperature, a fever, just a feeling of unwellness. And the doctor on board can be visited either in her sick bay area, or guests can summons her to their cabin. There is a small fee in the event she has to be called to a cabin, but she is on board for your health, safety, and well-being of guests and also the crew. And then returning home safely, for anybody who has not traveled since the start of COVID, the CDC does require that all air passengers traveling to the US, including citizens and legal permanent residents, must provide a negative COVID test taken within 3 calendar days of departure, or proof of recovery within the last 90 days. It is the airline's responsibility to confirm the negative test result on each guest prior to the boarding, and the airlines can deny boarding to passengers who can't provide the documentation. Our onboard doctors will facilitate the requirement by testing and providing you with the documentation prior to your return home. So all of the testing that is done on board our vessels comes included in your tour price. So you do not have to worry about additional costs for testing on board the vessel, and also then for returning to the US, because we do know that depending on the country, these costs can range anywhere from about $30 to $300 for testing. So the beauty will be that this will all be included in your tour experience and tour price. So over to you, Doug. Those are the bullets I wanted to talk about today. And I let you break the good news and go over the prizes and incentives we have for our guests attending the webinar today.
Phenomenal. And Deirdre, thank you so much here. That was very in-depth, and we thank you so much here for covering all of that great material, as well as providing a little bit more insights there on some of the experiences that you had, and definitely providing some of those new 2023 ideas and trip insights. I think is remarkable. So once again, thank you so much here, Deirdre. We'll be hearing from you here shortly as we cover some of the prizes and incentives here for attending this webinar, which once again, we do greatly appreciate each and every one of you for spending this afternoon here with us. Now for this webinar, in addition to any and all of our current promotions that you'll find here on www.vantagetravel.com, in addition to any of those online deals that you see there here, we're also offering for any webinar attendee $250 per person off any new reservation on the Ocean Explorer or Ocean Odyssey, whether that's for 2022 or 2023, whether that's for some of the pending reservations that Deirdre was discussing here for some of those brand new 2023 trips that we have, whether that's you yourself or any of your family and friends, as long as you reserve by October 31, utilizing the code D as in Delta, C as in Charlie, 0022, then that will go ahead and enable you to activate that promotion there. Now, in addition to this, we also as well have an extra $500 per person off any reservation of these new 6 sensational itineraries that we'll cover here in just one moment with Deirdre. And again, any attendees, family and friends, simply utilizing that code D as in Delta, C as in Charlie, 0022. So these rewards do apply for any new bookings here. Any type of additional terms and conditions, of course, please feel free to go on our website at www.vantagetravel.com. Now for that extra $500 per person of any of these 6 sensational itineraries, I'm going to go ahead and bring it back here to Dear to discuss a little bit more about what those itineraries entail here.
I'm sorry, Doug. I was having a few audio difficulties there.
The technical difficulties, no
Yes.
worries.
The sensational itineraries that we have today for special offers for attendees of the webinar this afternoon. We have some special offers on our itinerary that travels south from Nassau to Manaus. A 20-night itinerary, so almost 3 weeks in the beautiful warm weathers of the Caribbean, all the way down to Manaus. We have one departure later on this year in November, one departure early next year in March of 2022, a beautiful itinerary that takes in the islands of Martinique, Barbados, St. Kitts, Dominican Republic, to name but a few. And also traveling to the less traveled location of French Guiana in South America. So that is a beautiful itinerary. Next on our list, if you feel like continuing on the journey through South America, we also have the itinerary that travels to the heart of Brazil and the Amazon, from Manaus all the way down to Rio, with some coastal stops along the way in Fortaleza, Salvador, and an optional extension then to Iguazu Falls on the border between Brazil and Argentina. Again, one departure later on this year, with some just a few cabins available on November of 2021, and then another departure early next year towards February of 2022. The next itinerary of our 6 itineraries is a Rio down to Buenos Aires itinerary. This will also have the option to do a pre-extension to Iguazu Falls, traveling from Rio to Paraty, Santos, Rio Grande, down to Uruguay, to Montevideo, and finishing in Buenos Aires with an optional extension to Santiago, Chile. This itinerary is a short itinerary at 15 nights, one departure right before the holidays in December, and one departure in early February of 2022. Again, all of these itineraries can be joined together to do a combination itinerary and just stay on board and just relax, cruise in your little bubble on our small ship with a max of 139 travelers. The next itinerary we talked a little bit about is the Colonial America and cultural capitals from Boston to Nassau, or vice versa. We do have the itinerary in the end of November of 2021, one departure again in March of 2022. Talked a little bit about this itinerary already, but it is available on a special offer for those of you attending today. And finally, the itinerary that is very popular right now for guests who are not really interested in traveling too far from home. But we do have the North American waterways, St. Lawrence and the Great Lakes, a great opportunity to visit all of the Great Lakes, Chicago, Montreal. We know that Canada has been closed to tourists and travelers from America, from the USA for the last year. It will be reopening then in the springtime. You could be one of the first guests to travel to Canada for 16 nights, a whopping 26 included features, an additional 5 cultural discoveries. One departure on here on the 6th of May, 2023 also, that is quite popular for our guests. And finally, the Arctic Adventure, Iceland, Greenland, and beyond. This itinerary is an itinerary that travels in both directions, either from Montreal to Iceland, with stops in Greenland and Newfoundland on the way, Montreal, Newfoundland, a few stops in Greenland, and ending in Reykjavik in Iceland, or vice versa. This is an expedition itinerary. So for more of the active folks amongst you, 17 included features, a maximum capacity of just 124, but 18 nights of an itinerary, lots of opportunity for kayaking, Arctic kayaking inside the Arctic Circle, perhaps some stand-up paddle boarding. Maybe you'll do either or both with some seals or some other wildlife on board or in the water as you are sailing around on this itinerary.
All righty, and Deirdre, thank you so much once again. Now, I do want to cover here a couple of things, but before, I did see a couple of questions and answers while we still have Deirdre here with us. We want to just highlight a couple of things. Now, Deirdre, I know one of the big components of the Ocean Explorer and Ocean Odyssey series here, brand new to Vantage, is some of those onboard amenities, specifically, the spa that's on board, some of the ways in which you can book those, what some of the experiences is on a daily basis, what you'd find, so on and so forth. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure thing, Doug. We have a fully staffed spa, a hair salon, nail salon. We have a massage therapist. She does a lot of facial treatments also, as well as a sauna on board. These reservations can be made either in advance by contacting our concierge service here in Boston, or they can be made once the guests get on board the ship to make the reservations with Karine. I myself, just for quality control purposes, did sample a lot of her services while I was on board, so I can vouch for her. Very, very relaxing. These are available every day, and the spa is located on deck 7 on the Ocean Explorer, and will also be located on deck 7 on the Ocean Odyssey as well. The fully stocked gym also is available 24/7 with all kinds of equipment on board there on the vessel. Treadmills, bikes, rowing machines, weight machines. So if you can't sleep, feel free to go for a run, a cycle, a row. Those are available 24 hours a day. Additionally, we do have our infinity swimming pool and 2 hot tubs that do have operating hours depending on the sailing schedule of the vessel. As you can imagine, sailing with a swimming pool full of water is not really a bright idea. So depending on the sailing schedule, the pool and hot tubs could be closed just with the water drained, but a beautiful opportunity to swim in the infinity pool overlooking the ocean as well outdoors. So those are some of the amenities we have on board. Some of the toys we have on board for guests to avail of, kayaks, sea kayaks. We also have our stand-up paddle boards that guests are invited to use while they're on tour. Library, games, all kinds of opportunities to relax. Without going outside, we have a library where our guests can borrow books, read them on their trip, and just return them for the next guests. So those are some of the amenities that people can just drift away and enjoy while they're on their cruise.
Excellent. And there was another question here that I saw regarding food and beverage. Now, I know that you stated in kind of navigating the post-COVID climate that we'll see a couple different things in the dining room. Now, I wanted to know here regarding the beverages. Is there unlimited drinks involved here? Is there unlimited beer and wine still, as was with our river cruising? What type of differences in food and beverages can we expect on our Ocean Explorer and Ocean Odyssey adventures?
Sure, Doug. We have, similar to our river boats, we have included beer and wine with all dinners on board. Our itineraries to Antarctica do include beverages, liquor beverages throughout the cruising itinerary, because in Antarctica, of course, we're not necessarily stopping in any towns or anywhere for people to get off and do enjoy some of the local beverage establishments. But there are several bars on the vessel, that lounges that passengers can also, or guests can also purchase drinks or order beverages throughout the day. The food level, the level of food on this is just out of this world. We have a beautiful menu that we use throughout the season. A lot of regional cuisine, locally sourced foods, locally sourced fish, a lot of environmentally safe fishing. We also have a very in-depth green program on the vessel with regards to reuse of plastics and items like that. And we are also very cognizant as well of the fish and seafood that we are using on the vessel as well. I can't say enough good things about the food on this ship. It's just out of this world. Beautiful opportunity for people to have just 5-star food non-stop from morning till night.
That is exceptional. Yes, I've heard only anything, but I tell you, it is just remarkable reviews that are coming in here as far as the food offerings and some of those different restaurants that you were providing at the top of the hour here. Now, I did have just another question. Now, regarding the vessel itself, I see here on our website says a good bit about the X-bow technology and how that helps to stabilize. Now, when we look at all the different cabin categories, whether that's the TFS, that forward veranda, all the way up to the owner suite, what type of expectation should we have about the cruising experience, the stability, so on and so forth, regardless of where we are with that?
Sure, Doug. The Ocean Explorer and the Ocean Odyssey are fitted with 0-speed stabilizers. So sailing, there is less rolling. I will say that, less rolling, which is side to side for the vessel. I myself in calm waters did not even notice that we were sailing. The X-bow does, however, give a much calmer experience for guests in the icy waters. The Ocean Explorer and the Ocean Odyssey are polar class vessels, which gives them further strength in traveling through areas like Greenland, Iceland, Antarctica, just ice breaking, so they're a little smoother sailing through those areas. The X-bow also is a patented technology by Ulstein of Norway, and it is a feature that's very common on commercial vessels. However, the Ocean Explorer is one of the first few vessels that had it as a passenger vessel. What this does is it alleviates some of the displacement on the front, on the bow, so guests do not really experience the same type of discomfort on a traditional bow. It's also a great opportunity for our guests. As you can see on the photos of the vessel, we have the multi-level lounge on the Ocean Explorer, and that allows people and guests to see out front without even having to go outside, see a lot of wildlife, a lot of exciting items outside the window with a perfect viewing opportunity. The X-bow is also something that dolphins, believe it or not, love to swim with and dive in front of it. We had several ports on our last itinerary that we were escorted into by dolphins. It was just a beautiful sight. So the comfort level that guests would experience with both of these features, even by themselves, the stabilizers and the Ulstein X-Bow, is just beyond anything I think most people have experienced before.
That's absolutely exceptional. And Deirdre, once again, thank you so much here for providing all that type of insight. This is truly remarkable. And folks, for all of you who have joined us here today, it has been a remarkable afternoon and time well spent with good company. We definitely look forward to having you on board here soon. Please be advised that within the next 24 hours, you all will be receiving an email that's going to contain a brief survey in there that's going to automatically enroll you into the $1,000 future travel credit contest here. Alrighty, so all you need to do is just complete that brief survey. It will hit your email inboxes in 24 hours time. If you do not receive it within 24 hours time, feel free to personally reach out to me via email at dmorgan@vantagetravel.com. And again, for any of our promotional items that were unveiled here today, specific to this webinar, we want to be utilizing the code D as in Delta, C as in Charlie, 0022 with a book buy of October 31 of this year. Again, folks, thank you so much here for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you on board soon. Thank you.
Thank you.